just trying to block me. Everything was going against the sanction bodies, going against everything that people sit and tolerate. I wasn't tolerating it, so it's kind of like the black sheep, like, he's the bad one, get him out of here, we don't need him.
Yeah. I think this is disgusting. I think this is musty at the highest level. Oh, Shakur Stevenson has been...
They were just trying to shut me down. Everything I did went against the sanctioned bodies and challenged what people usually accept, and I wasn't going to stay quiet. I ended up being seen as the outsider, the troublemaker, the one they wanted gone.
Y'all are still this mad. It's cool, bro. The ring belt was free. This wasn't just a random post from a retired fighter trying to stay relevant.
Terence Crawford has finally spoken, and he didn't hold back. On Instagram, the boxing star delivered a message that shook the sport, directly calling out the World Boxing Council. His words were sharp, precise, and full of sarcasm. WBC, ain't no way y'all are still this mad.
Makes you so motherfucking better than any of the other sanctioned bodies, huh? Answer that question. What makes you better than the WBO, the IBF, or the WBA? Everybody accepted what I was giving them. But you, the WBC, think that you better than everybody, don't you?
Crawford is standing up for his protege, Shakur Stevenson, taking on one of boxing's most powerful organizations. The clash between fighters and sanctioning bodies has been simmering for years, but this goes beyond the usual politics and corruption. It's personal. It's about revenge, double standards, and a battle threatening to shake the sport from the inside. What the WBC did to Stevenson mirrors what they did to Crawford just months earlier, and now the boxing world is starting to see the pattern. The big question is clear. Is this really about rules, or is the WBC targeting fighters who speak out? To see why Crawford is so fired up, we have to rewind to January 31st, 2026, when Stevenson stepped into Madison Square Garden ready to prove everything. At 28, Newark Shakur Stevenson faced Teofimo Lopez, a fighter known for his power, speed, and unshakable confidence. Lopez, the WBO junior welterweight champion, was favored by most experts, and many doubted whether Stevenson had the knockout power to compete at 140 pounds. Those doubts disappeared within minutes. Stevenson dominated almost every round, delivering a flawless display of boxing fundamentals. His jab snapped Lopez's head back, his footwork made him untouchable, and his ring IQ shone as he outsmarted one of the division's toughest opponents. By the final bell, there was no debate. Stevenson had claimed both the ring and WBO junior welterweight titles in one of the most complete performances of his career. Even more impressively, he became a four-time world champion at just 28, joining legends like Oscar de la Hoya, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Canelo Alvarez, and Terence Crawford. Winning titles in 4 weight classes is a rare achievement that reflects extraordinary skill, discipline, and the ability to adapt as his body and career evolved, cementing his place among boxing's elite.
It was an amazing night. I put the work in. I stayed disciplined throughout my camp. I was in tremendous shape, and T.O. he's a hell of a fighter, but I was the better man.
In the moments after his big win, Terence Crawford was right there in the ring with Shakur, celebrating with his protege as the crowd erupted in cheers. The boxing world was buzzing. Stevenson had reached the top, and his future seemed limitless. But that future was shattered just days later. On February 4, 2026, the WBC dropped a shocking announcement that stunned fans, analysts, and Shakur himself. He was being stripped of his WBC lightweight title, effective immediately. The timing couldn't have been harsher. Right after the biggest victory of his career, one of his belts was suddenly taken away before he even had a chance to enjoy it.
Right, Shakur Stevenson has been stripped of his WBC 135-pound belt, fresh off his absolute destruction and masterclass in ending Teofimo Lopez's career last Saturday night in Madison Square Garden with the beautiful display of boxing.
On the surface, the WBC's reason seemed clear. Their rules say a champion can't hold belts in different weight classes with other organizations, especially in divisions where they don't hold a WBC title. Since Shakur had just won the WBO junior welterweight belt, they claimed he could no longer keep the lightweight title. On paper, it sounds reasonable, but the reality is different. Fighters in his position are usually given time to decide. When a boxer moves up in weight and wins a new championship, sanctioning bodies typically allow a grace period to choose which division to focus on. Fans and analysts expected Shakur to have weeks, maybe even months, to plan his path. Instead, the WBC acted immediately, stripping him just days after his victory, almost as if they had been waiting for the perfect moment to strike.
WBC has stripped him now of his 135-pound title because he won the WBO title at 140. Shakur Stevenson made it abundantly clear that he's a 135-pounder. He's going up in weight just for situational fights.
Shakur Stevenson didn't even get a chance to celebrate before everything was taken from him. He's not the type to stay quiet when disrespected, and his response on social media was explosive. On X, formerly Twitter, he fired off posts directly calling out the WBC. His main point was sharp and clear. The WBC was demanding $100,000 in sanctioning fees for a fight that had nothing to do with their belt. Stevenson had faced Teofimo Lopez for the ring and WBO titles. The WBC lightweight belt wasn't on the line. Lopez wasn't a WBC champion, and the organization had no role in the fight. Yet, according to Shakur, they were asking for a six-figure payment just because he still held their lightweight title while moving up to challenge for a different championship. In one of his most direct tweets, he made his frustration unmistakably clear. Dude, $100K to some crooks who don't deserve it. Nah, Leilani, I'd rather give it to you, baby girl. Referencing his daughter and making it clear where he thought that money should actually, music go. He didn't stop there. His next post cut even deeper.
Shakur wrote, $100K to some crooks who don't deserve it? Nah, Leilani, I'd rather give it to you, baby girl. Referencing his daughter and making it clear where he thought that money should actually go. He didn't stop there. His next post cut even deeper.
Shakur Stevenson made it clear that the WBC had nothing to do with his fight, and that fact is clearly eating them alive. This line is important because it shows what he truly believes. This isn't about rules or regulations. In his view, the WBC is bitter they weren't part of one of the biggest fights of the year and are now punishing him for it. His argument became even stronger when he highlighted a key point that exposed the organization's actions as unfair and self-serving, making it clear that their move wasn't about enforcing rules, it was about sending a message.
And I just paid these dudes after my last fight, he wrote, explaining that he had already fulfilled his financial obligations to the WBC after his previous bout. So the question he posed was entirely—
And I just paid these after my last fight, he wrote, explaining that he had already fulfilled his financial obligations to the WBC after his previous bout. So, the question he posed was—
Rush to do nothing. Can't give this dude a week to make a decision on what he wants to do next.
Shakur fired back asking, "What the hell am I giving y'all $100,000 for right now?" Then he made an accusation that changed the entire story. The WBC had issues with Bud, so they were coming after him instead. With that, Shakur linked his situation to a larger pattern of behavior from the WBC one that had already cost the sport one of its greatest champions. His final message was defiant and unapologetic: "Take your belt. It don't make me." In other words, he didn't need their approval, he remained a champion with or without the WBC.
Him $300,000 plus another $100K something for sanction fees, right? They ain't gonna tell me I ain't even apologize. Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self and paying your ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay you $300,000.
A few months before Shakur accused the WBC of targeting Bud, boxing fans witnessed one of the sport's most shocking moments. In September 2025, Terence Crawford moved up to super middleweight and defeated Canelo Alvarez, the pound-for-pound king, to become the undisputed 168-pound champion. This victory cemented Crawford's place among boxing's all-time greats, proving his skill was unmatched as he conquered a new weight class and dethroned a major star. Just as the boxing world was celebrating, December 2025 brought a stunning twist. the WBC stripped Crawford of his super middleweight title, claiming he owed $300,000 in sanctioning fees and had refused to pay, sparking one of the most talked-about controversies in recent boxing history.
He did not comply with the rules. Then he moves up to super middle and makes the fight of the century, beats Canelo, makes $50 million or around that. The WBC absolutely is not going to charge 3% of such an amount. We made a very clear 0.6%, which is $300,000.
Crawford fired back with a video that went viral almost instantly, laying his anger and frustration bare. "Boy, you better slap yourself. I'm not paying you $300,000, he said straight to the camera, leaving no room for misunderstanding. His response was raw, unfiltered, and turned what could have been a simple business disagreement into a full-blown conflict. Meanwhile, WBC President Mauricio Suleiman tried to justify the organization's stance in several interviews, breaking down the fee issue, but Crawford's words had already grabbed the spotlight.
$25,000 going to the Jose Suleiman Boxers Fund, which is to help former fighters in need. And it is just regrettable, not even a thank you or I'm sorry, taking a different route, no response. I wish him the best.
According to WBC President Mauricio Suleiman, Crawford had earned around $50 million from his fight with Canelo Alvarez, and the standard WBC sanctioning fee would have been 3% of that amount. The WBC claimed they were being generous by lowering the fee to just 0.6%, which came to $300,000, and added that $225,000 of that would go directly to the Boxers Fund, a charity started by Suleiman's late father, Jose Suleiman, to support fighters in need. While it might have sounded fair on paper, Crawford rejected the explanation, arguing the fee was unnecessary, and his counterpoints exposed a major flaw in the WBC's reasoning, turning the dispute into a clash over principle as much as money.
If you've been taking your body through hell for 30 years, would you retire? All right then. So there go your answer. So that's why I retired. I gave my all to boxing, but I'm not going to give my health to boxing. If I was to come back, who would I fight? I'm asking you.
So say it's a good question.
All right, so there you go. There you go. I have nobody to fight. I have nothing to accomplish. So now I'm just coming back for the sport and just money.
Every other major sanctioning body, the WBO, IBF, and WBA, had accepted the payments Crawford offered, with no issues over the amounts. So why was the WBC the only one demanding more? Why did they feel entitled to a higher fee than everyone else? Crawford's question went unanswered, and his response became one of the most dramatic exits in recent boxing history. Instead of continuing the fight with the WBC, he announced his retirement, leaving the sport as an undefeated 5-division world champion and the first fighter in the 4-belt era to become undisputed in 3 separate weight classes.
You put Lamont Roach at number 2. Shakur says, okay, I'm willing to fight Lamont Roach. And you strip him? This is why these sanctioned bodies are a joke. Look how long Gervonta Tank Davis held the WBA title. It's a joke.
Shakur Stevenson's situation quickly drew comparisons to what happened with Terence Crawford, and the pattern was impossible to ignore. Both fighters were close friends and training partners, both had been stripped of their WBC titles within months, both had disputes over sanctioning fees, and both had openly criticized the organization. As fans and analysts connected the dots, social media erupted with speculation that the WBC might be deliberately targeting outspoken fighters. Shakur's claim that the WBC had a personal issue with Bud and was now coming after him suddenly seemed plausible, given the eerily similar timing and circumstances. For many, it felt less like coincidence and more like retaliation by a powerful organization punishing those who challenge it. While the boxing community was divided, one thing became clear. The WBC's credibility was taking a serious hit, and the controversy cast a long shadow over the sport.
Green belt, which don't mean fucking shit. Fucking real belt is the ring belt, which is free, motherfucker. Who you talking about? You want me to pay you more than the other sanctioned bodies because you feel like you better than them. How in the world all the sanctioned bodies agree to the same amount, but you sit your motherfucking ass up there and say that I need to apologize to you.
Fans began questioning whether the WBC truly cared about boxing or if they were just focused on protecting their reputation and revenue. Terence Crawford, though retired, had been watching closely, still invested in the sport and in his protege Shakur Stevenson's career. For weeks he stayed quiet, letting Shakur handle the situation, but there comes a point when silence feels like complicity. That point came when Crawford saw the WBC treating Shakur exactly as they had treated him, and he knew he couldn't stay silent any longer. His Instagram post was perfectly crafted, direct, defiant, and mocking at the same time. Addressing the WBC, he wrote, "WBC, ain't no way y'all are still this mad. It's cool, bro." The ring belt was free, a sharp jab at the organization's obsession with sanctioning fees while showing his support for Shakur and making it clear he stood against the WBC's unfair tactics.
Is there going to be a Zuffa belt where, like, the winner of the Zuffa belt has a springboard into like Riyadh season and a championship fight, a Ring Magazine fight?
You and I have never talked about this, but the answer is yes.
Right,
That's
of
exactly
course.
what will happen.
Of course, yeah. Right.
There will be a Zuffa belt, and then there will be a ring belt. And yes, I will not recognize any of the other sanctioning bodies.
The Ring Magazine Championship, one of boxing's most prestigious titles, doesn't charge fighters its earned purely on merit, not by paying fees to a governing body. Crawford's message was clear: keep your expensive belts, the ones that actually matter don't cost anything. But his words weren't just aimed at the WBC, they were also a show of support for his protege, Shakur Stevenson, telling him, "I see what they're doing to you, and I've got your back." Crawford didn't stop at a single post. He retweeted all of Shakur's updates, amplifying his voice and ensuring the boxing world saw the situation. The message was clear: the WBC, still bitter over Crawford refusing to pay their fees, appeared to be punishing anyone associated with him. Meanwhile, WBC President Mauricio Suleiman, who had been so vocal defending the organization during Crawford's dispute, stayed completely silent. No statements, no clarifications, no defense. As the tension between Crawford, Stevenson, and the WBC played out, an even bigger challenge emerged. Suleiman now faced Dana White, the UFC president, who had launched Zuffa Boxing, a new promotional company shaking up the sport with a bold promise: no sanctioning fees, directly challenging the WBC's traditional power and revenue model and adding pressure to the ongoing conflict.
Like they claim, there's no sanction fees in Zuffa. Of course there are no sanction fees because they take all the money. It's ridiculous. It's something that is very elemental. If you compare one to the other, it's not apples to apples.
Dana White had repeatedly stated in interviews that if Zuffa Boxing gained control of the sport, he would eliminate the sanctioning bodies entirely. His reasoning was straightforward and compelling. These organizations don't add real value, they just take money from fighters. White's criticism of the WBC and other sanctioning bodies struck a chord with fans frustrated by seeing fighters lose a portion of their purses to groups that seemed more focused on collecting fees than protecting athletes. WBC President Mauricio Suleiman appeared on the Ariel Helwani show to defend the organization and counter White's claims, but his arguments came across as defensive, outdated, and out of touch with what fans and fighters were increasingly demanding.
They said I could not go into the ring. So I said, okay, just have 2 or 3 security guards to throw me out of the ring. Because I am going into the ring, it's the WBC belt, and I'm going to have to go in and present and do my job. If you don't want me in, just have people take me out.
Of course there are no sanctioning fees because they take all the money, Suleiman said, criticizing Zuffa Boxing's business model. It's ridiculous. It's very basic. Comparing the two isn't even apples to apples. But by then, the damage was done. White had exposed a truth the boxing world already suspected. Sanctioning fees burden fighters, and the organizations collecting them don't always provide real value. Suleiman's position was made worse by a personal slight during the Crawford-Canelo fight in September 2025. According to him, Zuffa Boxing refused to give him or his associates credentials to attend the event and even told him he wouldn't be allowed in the ring, despite the WBC belt being on the line in what was promoted as an undisputed championship fight, leaving Suleiman personally embarrassed and publicly challenged. Terence Crawford and Shakur Stevenson are now standing together against a system that has controlled boxing for decades, and they're not facing it alone. Dana White is quietly building Zuffa boxing into a real alternative, promising fighters a future without sanctioning fees and challenging the traditional power of the established organizations. The big question is whether the WBC's actions are truly about rules and regulations, or if they're personal. Did they strip Shakur for breaking bylaws, or because they were frustrated over losing control of the Crawford-Lopez narrative? Evidence suggests the latter, and the boxing world is starting to take notice. In a sport where fighters risk everything, their health, their careers, and even their lives, the real battles may no longer be fought in the ring but in boardrooms and on social media, where athletes demand fairness and organizations fight to maintain their authority. With Crawford retired and Stevenson stripped of his title, the WBC has created two formidable enemies, and as Dana White continues building his boxing empire, the sanctioning bodies may soon face the end of their unchecked control. The war is just beginning, and the future of boxing hangs in the balance, with fighters, promoters, and fans all watching closely to see whether the old systems can survive or if a new era is about to take over. For the latest boxing news, moments, and events, stay tuned to Knockout Updates, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss quality content.